Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Bill Kasko. He is the president and CEO of Frontline Source Group, and it's a national staffing firm specializing in strategic workforce solutions. We'll learn from him about proven hiring strategies, from rethinking talent acquisition to building strong long-term teams. Also, how to future-proof your workforce, reduce hiring risks, and gain a competitive edge in today's job market. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Bill. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about how one can master hiring and build a winning team. Also, we'll talk about from a candidate's point of view, how best they can utilize LinkedIn and other resources. We'll talk all about this. But before that, Bill, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
You bet. So, been at the helm here with Frontline Source Group for the past 21 years, and so as president and CEO, have guided us through the beginnings of a lot of different turmoil when it comes to the hiring side and the changing environment that's taken place for the last 21 years for both the candidate and the employer that's hiring. So we went from the day of the fax machine to the day of the internet, and as it transforms into the day of what's coming with AI and the changes that are taking place, both in the way that individuals as candidates go to look for new positions or new jobs that are out there, careers, but as well as the employer that looks to do the hiring, especially in the professional side, the way that environment has changed. So trying to stay ahead of this, but that journey for me has been a journey that is something that it's interesting because it never seems to get old. It's something new every day. And so every day we look at it from understanding how it's changed and what we need to do to stay ahead.
Absolutely, what we need to do to stay ahead. So, Bill, let's look at it from this point of view. Means we have a lot of companies which are struggling for the right kind of talent, and a lot of candidates who are struggling for the right kind of jobs. And in the backdrop of all that thing that is happening, everyone is looking for one another and are not able to find each other in the right way. Who has the upper hand in today's time, the companies or the candidates?
It's a really interesting question. I think it's the chicken or the egg question, right? Which one is the most important sometimes? And so what we believe is that the one who has the upper hand right now, it's the technology and the software as we go forward, which is interesting, which is what I think if you look back over the last 20 years, and in particular, you look at social media and the way that social media has played a change and a game changer, not only in our personal lives, but in what it has done in the social side of things. And in particular, when we look at what we consider to be the number one source when it comes to interaction for careers, whether you're the candidate or the employer looking to hire, LinkedIn is the playing field that really comes into play. And what's been interesting about all this is really what we call just one word, and that is trust. And in today's field, in today's market, as we're on the different social media platforms, we're all questioned about trust. It's authentication, it's being of authority, but it's trust. Is this person real? Is this company real? Is what they're trying to sell me real? And it's the question that goes on nonstop every day. And as an individual looking to hire people, the trusted base that we go to would be LinkedIn. The focus around it from social media is interesting because we interact, we share information about our company or companies, but it's where we build that trust factor. It's where we build that following of people that are watching what's happening within a company. But on the reverse side of it, as an individual looking to either make a career change or they're looking for a new career opportunity, we do the exact same thing. We're building trust in our LinkedIn profile and the way that we present ourselves, so that when a company goes to look at our information to verify or define new talent for their company, they're looking at LinkedIn as that trusted and verified in many ways, although it's not, but it's still a trust factor that comes into play, that companies look at that profile of that individual and they look at the connections and the people that they're doing business with or working with. They're looking at that interaction, the post, the information, because it all builds trust around the authentication and just the verification that this is a real individual, that this is not a fake individual that's posted out there, but this is a real individual.
Absolutely. So, Bill, if we look at it from both sides, what are the main challenges for companies in terms of hiring? And from candidate side, what are the main challenges for them? Is it about only wanting to work remotely, or is it something more? Because they have seen the real side of the industry with just the great resignation and quiet quitting and revenge quitting and all these things still very much on. So help us understand from that part of this whole dynamic.
Yeah, those are the difficult questions to answer is two. So we'll start with the client, the employer side of it. And you brought up the Great Resignation, and so we think of the Great Resignation as a time of just an individual and a career side, but the Great Resignation really left a mark on the employer. The employer was harmed much more by the Great Resignation than anything else, and so today, the employer looks at LinkedIn to look at it a little bit deeper. The employer is able to get it to really peer into the background of an individual more than they're able to from just a resume, and many times in a way that they can see things that they necessarily can't ask. They can also see tendencies about an individual. So when they're looking at fundamentally the background of someone and what their experience is, they look at it from the tenure. Why did they leave? Is their information on their resume the exact same as their information that's on LinkedIn? Are there pieces missing? Which all is explainable, but again, it creates the question and it builds the trust. So when an employer is utilizing LinkedIn to look at individuals, they want to see, are they interacting? Are they posting? What are they posting? There's so many things with technology has changed. And if you look at LinkedIn and the change in their algorithms, and the way that you rank, it's interesting that people don't realize that a LinkedIn profile is really like a web page. This is really your web page of your information that you're putting out there. And so when LinkedIn recently updated and changed their algorithms about how you show up in your feed and the information that's out there's a lot of noise. And that noise, what they wanted to do was kind of clean some of the noise up, but also because LinkedIn is a part of obviously Microsoft, and it comes down to profits. They also took your feed and the information that's out there, and they shrunk it by 30% this year and added more ads and information to generate revenue. So fighting to get your information out as an individual to be seen in another person's feed or information is more difficult. So it makes your profile extremely important. So from the employer and the client, we call it, but the employer side of the hiring side, they have found it to be an extremely useful tool day in and day out to use, again, because they want to verify in the trust. The other side is the candidate or the individual who may not even be thinking about making a career change, but their profile information and updating and posting things has changed. We're so used to Facebook or Instagram where we just go in and we like something and we think, oh, that's great, we liked it, and that's fantastic. LinkedIn has the same type of a system that I think it gets us hooked on that, right? It gets us hooked just liking things. But at the end of the day, the reality is that liking things does absolutely nothing to your algorithm. It's about interaction. And so what they're looking for and what individuals need to keep in mind is that it's not just a like or a repost, but it's your comments. It's about writing information. It's about expressing your thoughts and engaging in conversation, because that's one of the things that technology really has taken away from us, which is wonderful about a podcast like yours, is it gives us an opportunity to actually engage and have a conversation with other individuals. And you're on a platform where you're on an individual conversation within business, which makes it relevant to any potential employer and potential hiring manager that might be looking for an individual with a person's background. So making sure that your information is updated, it's relevant, that you're not just, like I said, liking or reposting, but actually taking the time. I mean, it's a matter of allocating. How much time a day do you allocate to networking about yourself? Whether you're looking or not, you have to. I can't tell you how many LinkedIn profiles I look at every day where they've had absolutely zero interaction or post or anything in some, say in more than a year, they've never posted. Well, that doesn't tell me a whole lot about that person. It doesn't tell me a whole lot about their knowledge of their industry. Are they a subject matter expert? And there's so many different skill sets that you would think, why would I go on to maybe a LinkedIn? Because my industry or what I do as a career might not be relevant, but you'd be amazed. Every career and every industry that's out there is a possible opportunity on LinkedIn. And so understanding that, we've built this funnel that started at the top of all of these social networks and networking opportunities, and it kind of runs all the way down to the most relevant based on what you're looking for. So each one of these have really become different areas, whether you're B2C or B2B. But as a individual looking for work, it's extremely relevant to the day in and day out of what you're looking for. And especially because of the Great Resignation, companies look at that. They want to see those timelines and those changes.
Absolutely, Bill. Now, to understand this better, and from both again the company side, but nobody will tell it. Are companies looking at long-term talent or only short-term talent? They may be saying you have a job opportunity here, but they don't want to use that. We are only looking for a time till we actually get you replaced by AI or something else. Whereas, what about employees? Do they earlier you see 10 years back it would be a different thing altogether. People would look at a long-term perspective. What about employees? Are they also thinking like that, or is it only for short term? That okay, we'll jump every 1 year, 2 years, and then we can keep on getting raises one time until one fine day I will not need any of this employment. I will become a digital nomad or anything like that. Help us understand from this point. And nobody says about this that we don't look at long term. Everyone will say we are looking at long term, whereas that is not actually true. We all both know that.
So that's a really, really great question. You could probably do an entire podcast on that one question alone, right? It kind of goes back to the remote workforce and then the in-office workforce. I think everything it differentiates based on what the need is and what the skill set is, right? So if you look at statistics right now in particular, and unfortunately in the United States, for example, we have our Bureau of Labor Statistics who put out information on tenure. And when you look at the tenure of if you look at an average age of between 25 and 40 years of age, I think the latest report was showing the average tenure is only 1.9 years. It may be up to as much as 2.2 years on average that a person stays in a position. So it's extremely difficult and rare to find an individual who's been at the same position for 10, 15, 20 years. We actually have clients who ask that, and we just kind of go, why? And there are a lot of negatives to this. And I think that over time, and because of things that have happened, obviously COVID was one, that companies have become more open to that change of opportunity with an explanation of what took place. But here's the thing that a lot of companies forget, and a lot of hiring managers who have been in a position or with a company for 10 or 15 years, because not everyone is on LinkedIn. Remember that too. It's not the end all for everything. But managers forget that. They forget about hiring. They forget about tenure. They look at it from a different perspective. Sometimes if a person is at a company for 10 or 15 years, it doesn't mean that they're more valuable than an individual who's had 5 positions over the last 10 years. That individual who's had 5 different positions with 5 different companies, who has gone through 5 different business process, who has watched companies do it, basically usually the skill 5 different ways, is more valuable than that one individual who's been at one company doing the exact same routine day in and day out and hasn't been open to change and learning something new. So the argument is always there that companies, they have a different perspective, and it really depends on the company's idea of what they're looking for. They don't want the change because of the cost that's so expensive to retrain, retool, to bring someone on board. So a company tries to find that individual who has that long tenure. The big problem is that we use a word called permanent. We use a word that in the employment and hiring business that we're going to hire a permanent employee. And I think we can all agree that there's no such thing as a permanent job. It just doesn't exist. And yet it's still used in our vocabulary when we're talking about the hiring and the process that we go through. So a lot of this is just a learning change, but I also think it's something that it's just been the same thing in this industry over and over. So we went through a shakeup during, if you go all the way back to 2000, you talk about the .coms, you talk about the internet, we had change, you talk about the way that job boards came out, you talk about social media. We've gone through all of these changes when it comes to that human capital and hiring. So now we're faced with AI, and now we're faced with the whole question about, are we going to need these employees long term? What is AI going to do? Okay, so AI is just another tool in the belt. And does it mean that certain positions and certain jobs are going to be eliminated? Yeah, it does. And guess what? The same thing happened when we went to a PBX phone system, and we didn't have to have 6 receptionists at the front desk answering 200 phone lines. This is just part of it. I mean, this is part of those changes that took place. When you would go to a restaurant, they used to have 6 to 7 cooks in the back. Now they don't have to have as many over time because we had this beautiful thing called a microwave. This is part of the change of technology that takes place. What we have to do as human beings is figure out how do we retool and take that intellectual property and that individual and retool them and use their resources in a different manner. And honestly, that's what's happened because our workforce has been shrinking. So as the workforce has been shrinking, we have had to become more accessible to technology to figure out how do we really still do what we need to do with less. And so we can bring our costs down, which it does happen. But what's interesting is the cost overall doesn't necessarily go down. We still need the people. And as of today, at least, we still have to have people that are running and overviewing and looking at and watching the machines, but also inputting the data and the information into the machines. One of the areas in particular that I see has really made a really quick change when it comes to the AI side, when you look at marketing in particular, and you look at the ability to use AI to write for us, to data, to quickly put together a resume. I looked at something the other day about a PowerPoint presentation. We used to spend an hour putting together PowerPoint presentations for clients. Now it takes 2 to 3 minutes. They can update, pull the information much quicker and more efficient. We still have the problems, though. We still have to make sure the data is correct. Does it verify? But as we adapt to this, you're going to see a change. But I think that companies will figure out, if we hire this individual and there's an AI product that comes behind the back, what do we do with them? Because the company culture that's still there is what makes up a company. You still have to have the people today. Not saying that it's going to be like that 20, 30 years from now, but AJ, I'm just going to tell you, you and I aren't going to have to worry about it 20, 30 years from now. It's going to be somebody else's problem. So today, we're just trying to figure out how do we get through this in the best way possible.
Absolutely. We don't have to worry, but let's talk about those who have to worry. So how do they become future ready for the companies also? Now, with the great resignation, everybody knows now companies cannot be trusted the way they used to think companies could be. There is nothing permanent about a permanent job even. So how should companies look at themselves? Means, how do they get future ready? Should they just fully rely on AI and that AI will be there to solve their problems? As for the employees, how should they get future ready? Can they only look at LinkedIn and be future ready whatever the thing happens? Because earlier on, companies and employees used to move in the same direction, but now it looks like to be competing who leads each other less. This is what the future looks like. What do you have to say? Throw some insight into this particular thing, Bill.
Man, these questions are not easy because you go down that rabbit hole and you're not sure which way you want to go. So, for companies, look, the company is their bottom line at the end of the day, and they're looking at how do we cut costs, how do we save money, how do we do more with less. Period. If you look at different sectors, even within the companies, and accounting is a great one, where a lot of the functions are able to be done quicker by utilizing AI. It goes back to, which is interesting. It's exactly what I said in the beginning about LinkedIn. It's a trust factor. And so they have to have trust. They have to be able to rely on this thing. Something will happen and the company will be like, look, we can utilize it for a lot of what we're doing, but we're still going to need that human to go over it and verify the information. And so that's where they have to really look at how does it interact? How does it work? Also, how does it play within our systems? There's so many different tools out there right now. One of the things that we're going to find is that companies are going to over tool. They're going to take a look at every new shiny new bell that's out there and try it to figure out what's going to be the best one. The problem is that in the past, we had 6 to 9 months, even 18 months to try something. It would change over. Now we're talking about 6 to 9 days. I mean, you may get something and all of a sudden in a matter of a week, all of a sudden there's something new. We actually last year utilized, and we're one of the first companies to utilize an AI interactive, voice engaging, adaptive conversation recruiter. So our recruiter, Jamie, would make the phone calls to people and actually conduct interviews. And it was scary. Our internal recruiters within the agency were concerned. Is this our future? Are we going to be gone? And after about 2 to 3 weeks of Jamie, they realized, no, I've got more security than I ever had, because Jamie can't feel the same thing right now. Jamie doesn't have an emotional piece of making a career change to an individual or to a company that's going to hire. So we identified that technology can be used in the way, but we have to figure out, where do we still come into play? And that's what companies have to do. Companies have to figure out, where is AI going to make a difference for them? Where can they utilize it in the best way? But when they go to sell, or they're going to make deals happen, people right now still haven't adapted to an AI phone call. They still have, and which is incredible because it's almost real. I've been tricked a couple times. And so they have to really figure out, how are they going to use it? Now, the individual looks at AI, and I know they look at it as, how am I going to, what's my career look like long term? What type of degree should I be getting? If I look at individuals right now that are getting marketing degrees, it makes me wonder, what type of marketing do you think you're going to be able to do that's going to be different than what the machine can do? If it takes you an hour to write a blog and this machine can pop out 30 of them in 5 minutes, what's the difference? How are we going to be able to do that? Well, one of those is definitely the emotional side of things today. But as technology changes, we know that that'll change. So there isn't, unfortunately, a great answer. Our own daughter is in the media business, and I think luckily she's been able to pivot and move into different areas, because she recognizes the fact that long term for her, because she'll be around 20, 30 years, long term, she's going to have to adapt and change. That's part of technology. That's just part of what we've all had to do. It goes all the way back, if you think about it, to the beginning of the computer and us using the cards and having to use our pencil and put them in through the machine. Or, and for most of these kids today, they don't remember that. But some of us do remember that when that technology changed, it did change lives. And how many people did it take to run the old AS400s? I mean, that's just something that a lot of people don't even understand or think about, the fact that a computer that's on our phone, the amount of systems that it took almost for a building at one time. And so trying to stay ahead and to learn and to adapt is going to be key. They've done a great job adapting to social media. My gosh, they have no problem texting and being on social media and TikTok and everything else. They just have to do the same thing. And I think it'll be almost something that they grow up with, and it's just part of them. It's just part of what they do. It's the same. It was funny. We had a conversation the other day talking about making a copy. And I said to someone, well, when I grew up, we would say, hey, we're going to go make a Xerox. And they looked at me and they're like, what? Why would you have said that? I go, well, that's what it was called. I mean, you just thought of it like that. And I think that's the same thing that we're going to see going forward, is that AI just becomes a part of what we're doing. We're going to start using it no different than the way we did with Alexa or Siri or anything else. It's just something that as time goes on, it becomes a part of our life. We figure out how to adapt around it, and companies and employees in your career path, they will focus on it. We will absolutely be utilizing it as a number one tool.
Absolutely. We talked about employees, we talked about companies. Let's talk about companies like yours, Frontline Source Group. What would they be doing, say, some years down the line? Will their existence be only about 5-year placement warranty, or will it be beyond that? Will firms like yours will be there in the future? Help us with this, sir. That will show the future also for the talent industry, for the companies also.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I think it goes back again to that personal side of things and the personal touch that has to take place, those conversations, the communication. As of today and right now, that's where we're at. We implemented 2 years ago and adapted to the AI platform and the idea behind it, and invested millions into systems and automation. And in many ways, it's sad, but we know today that even our company and what we're doing, we have at least 6 to 7 different positions that in the past we would have to have people actually doing, that we've been able to eliminate and utilize the technology to make us more efficient. So it is coming. I mean, there is a piece of this that is going to be there. But I think what you're going to be left with is fewer companies in the executive recruiting and staffing space than what we have today. The individuals that have not adapted will be left behind. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing for the employers, and it's the same thing for the individual looking to make a career change. You have to adapt. You have to adjust. You have to embrace it in order to succeed. Otherwise, you will not be here.
Absolutely. There's much to understand and learn from you about all these things, be it as an individual, be it as an employee, or as a company, or even as a recruiter. So for those people who would want to learn from you, learn more about you, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. The best thing, visit our website. So it's just the name of our company, frontlinesourcegroup.com. You can look us up on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, again, I'm just going to tell you, it's the place to be. Go find our page on LinkedIn. Just type in Frontline Source Group, click on follow us. Best way to get information and updates of what's taking place, not just for positions, but we post every day 2 to 3 times. In fact, our recruiters write articles. We put information out there about what's taking place, trends, information, knowledge base to help individuals and companies to navigate this, because it is changing. It's changing every single day, and it's very difficult to try to stay ahead or even on top of it.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.